This is Giles Payne speaking, and I've been asked to do an interview with Art Williams about some of the important historic events for Brooklawn Country Club. And I've got a few questions, Art, and we'd love to hear what you have to say. One question I had, did you tell us something about Archer Wheeler? Did you play with him? Did you know Willie Wheeler? I know that the club members would like to know about that.
Well, yes, I did know Archie. I grew up at Brooklawn. I was very lucky to do that. And I was starting after about 8 or 9. And by the time I got to the early teens, I was playing loosely around the course. And Archie was this kind of person who took in young boys or men and invited them to play with them. And he invited me to play with him a number of times. It was really quite a thrill. I did not know Willie. I heard about him. Alfie knew him and told me about that they were twin brothers, and they had a membership at Garden City Golf Club. And they would go down there, play golf, billiards, come back to Brooklawn, play another round, and then go to bed. Archie, as you may know, had that wonderful castle manor in Bridgeport, the Wheeler Mansion. It's just, he invited me there a couple of times. It was a 19th century museum. It was just something to be in, dim and foregone and all kinds of artifacts. There's a lot more to Archie, and of course, quite a bit about him in Gene Saracen's book. So I won't dwell on what an amazing person he was, kind and gentle and caring. His story continues at Brooklawn. We'll go into that when you're ready. It's the Archer Wheeler tournament.
Right. Well, that will be a good segue. How did that start, the Archer Wheeler tournament?
Well, after Archie died in 1954 or 56, I've forgotten which, a group of us got together, Alfie and myself and Peter Griggs and probably somebody else from the golf committee and maybe one other. It was a small group. And our thought was that the tournament should be dedicated to non-tournament players, club players who never experienced the thrill of a championship event, but should in the light of another event get the trappings of a tournament event, and that's how I dreamed up the playoff idea, the 3 holes. I think I was the first to do that before the British Open with Jack Nicklaus. But anyway, we devised the 3-hole playoff with the handicap. And as you all know, it became very popular. But there are other changes made in the course, particularly the bunkers. 16 is a notable example. Those bunkers in the corner of 16 are very difficult. They make the hole longer, and tougher, and generally all over the course the bunkers are larger, and I think they've made the course harder, even though the conditions are better, which is an anomaly.
Art, tell me this.
But it's only by a stroke or 2 at the most.
Right. Now, Art, there was a pro named George Sparling. Tell us about him.
Okay. Well, when I started taking lessons, 8 or 9 or 11, 12 years old, The staff was George Sparling, the head pro. Johnny Walsh was the next in line. And the shop boy, Mike Bonnetat, who burnished up, he did a marvelous job burnishing the clubs. He could shine those clubs like they'd never been shined. But George was wanted to be known as a one of the old Scots pros. But Alfie told me actually he was Irish. And he was posing as a Scotsman.
A big question members have today is, are the greens too slow or are they too fast? What were they like in the 40s and 50s?
40s and 50s. Yeah. Well, I think they were smaller. Peter Bly has added little strips here and there, and generally speaking, I think they're larger now, which makes it harder. And I think they're faster now than they were. Their condition is better, and that makes them harder. I think they're harder, but by and large, the whole condition of the course as a whole is, including the greens, is really better than it was back then. So I give the staff a lot of credit. And of course, there's Alfie Winter, my friend, my rival, my opponent, and he won the state amateur twice. He was a top player. He could use a 1-iron like nobody ever could believe, and putted, marvelous putter. He and I had spent hours on the practice putting green, and I think that's where he became such a good putter. Don't forget that Alfie won about 15 club championships. He was really on the first tee.
Yeah.
How many strokes you gonna give me? He should have gotten strokes for everybody. Is that what you had in mind?
Yes, that's what I had in mind.
The tournament down at Wingfoot, what is that, Giles?
Anderson.
The Anderson?
The
You want to talk
Anderson
about the
Memorial
Anderson?
Best Ball. Alfie and I were partners in that, and for a number of years, and that's a very, very important amateur best ball tournament, and very popular among the amateurs. Alfie and I had some success with it. There were probably at least 2 or 3 occasions when we had great chances to go on and win it, but got snuggered out in some way by people like Willie Ternisa, who would hit a shot from behind a tree up 6 inches from the hole on 18. You wouldn't believe what the people would do to us. So that we lost out there. And of course, one year we got in the playoff, and it's a story that's generally known. And we went off alphabetically, and I was last. And sure enough, 10th hole, Wingfoot West, I knocked it in for a hole and won. And of course, became famous for that, if nothing else. It was really a great thrill. And that story ends about 25 years later by playing in a senior event in Florida with my partner in other events, Fred Yarrington, who was a good friend and a good golfer in his own right. We were member partners. Anyway, over lunch later, somebody in the luncheon mentioned the Archer Wheeler. I mean the
Anderson.
the Anderson Memorial, and I asked the other players, I said, "Oh, you played in the Anderson Memorial. How did you make out?" They said, "Well, we did all right, and, but we never, we didn't do too well. But one year we did it at our best round. We tied it. Got into the playoff, and wouldn't you know, some SOB knocked us out with a hole in one on the playoff." And Fred sitting there, and he points at me and says to the guy, "Oh, here's the SOB who did it." And to have been a member of Brooklawn all my life, it's been a great pleasure. My home away from home. I think the club is a marvelous place to have done this. Its facilities are excellent, with the swimming pool, the tennis courts, the tennis pavilion, the paddle tennis courts and hut, bowling alleys, enlarged grill. It's the whole club. Now the club looks great. I'm very proud of it.
Thank you very much on behalf of everybody at Brooklawn.